Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. The end is always a beginning. The beginning is always an end. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with Bruce Arant, and we're going to talk to you about an event that's coming right up here on December 17th. It's kind of a wrap-up for 2022. It's the beginning of a new mindset for 2023, an exciting, growth-oriented mindset. Bruce, I know you're on track with this attitudinal shift, right?
Oh, on track, yeah. It's so strange to hear somebody say 2023, you know?
It really is.
I mean, I haven't really gotten into that mindset yet.
Yes, well, you know, there is a numerology thing that you could go with a 2023, and 2 and 3 is 5, and 2 is 7. 7's a very important number, but we won't go down that road. Anyway, so the organization Nebraska, many people are familiar with that right now, we've moved downtown to Omaha, right? 19th and Howard, and we're going to have a kind of a housewarming, an open house, and provide some real solid content. Kind of a presentation or workshop type thing right there in Modus, which is where the event is being held. And I just wanted to visit with you a little bit about the message of the thing, because not only are we going to have one, this is classic, right? We're going to have two. We're going to overdo it, and then try to squeeze it all into one bag. But the first thing is this: when they get there, when our guests come to this particular event, we're going to invite them in and have them sit down. It's a very interesting kind of open living room, kitchenette type environment. Informal, but rather open. I think that'll be okay. And we'll have some snacks around, of course. And we're going to, the first, like I said, message after welcoming them to the event and so on, will be called Vision, Fusion, and Passion. All right. Now, this is a presentation that I give occasionally, and it always is pretty successful. Do you remember the whole concept?
I remember it, but I don't remember. What?
Yeah, the concept is this, and it's really very appropriate for 2023 because everybody is going, how do we go to the next level? 2022 has been a kind of a rough year. It's a time of uncertainty and passivity in some ways. So when I was a little kid on the farm, I'd come down and I'd watch TV on Saturday mornings. That was the big deal. I'm sure you can kind of relate to that.
Oh, I totally do.
And I'd be watching TV in the den area and so on. My mother, every Saturday, would bake fresh cookies. Yeah.
That's a good mom.
Yeah. And I loved it, of course, and she'd be out there doing that, and I could smell it and so on. But then she would never let me kind of get involved during the process, but she'd go upstairs when they were all done, and they're sitting out, and she actually would put them in a cookie jar. Good old-fashioned thing there. And so I'd sneak out. I have to admit, I would sneak out into the kitchen, look around, and I would grab this little stool that my grandpa had made for me way back in the day, and it had three legs. It was that kind of a construction or design, and it was just big enough I could push it up to the cupboard, get up on top of that stool, and reach out, and I could reach to the cookie jar. Right.
This is where the slippery slope began, right? Your downfall.
This was the beginning of the end for me. That is so true. No, at any rate, though, I would get a couple warm cookies and go back and eat munch on them while I'm watching cartoons.
Sure.
And but the thing was this: when I was in the TV room and so on, and I would smell it a little bit, and I would envision eating the cookies, right? I was envisioning how it was going to be. And I was really happy about that. But so many companies these days, if I ask them straight up, and candid, serious conversation, what's the vision for next year?
Right.
They have difficulty with that.
They can't smell the cookies.
They can't smell the cookies. Right. Or they act like they give me some really big idea, but they themselves would admit that we probably aren't going to achieve that. That'd be too hard for us. They can't reach the cookie jar.
It needs to be attainable.
Well, it needs to be attainable. That's right. And they don't have the stubby little stool to get up on a bun.
Like a milking stool, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it was that kind of a thing. Right, exactly. So we're using that as a symbol here, obviously.
Sure.
So the first thing is they struggle with getting to the vision. They don't know how to get and by the way, what are the cookies in the cookie jar? What do they symbolize for them? In other words, what are the tangible goals? Once they get to the cookie, they can reach the cookie jar. By the way, a technology guy that I was chatting with about this one time said, well, technology is the enabler. Technology is what would enable you to kind of reach the jar.
Okay.
But it's up to you guys to figure out what you really want to pull out of the jar.
Right, what's in the jar.
That's so satisfying.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, talking about vision. Now the next one is fusion. Right?
Okay.
This is my favorite word, we talked about fusion before. Well, we talked last time recently about the fusion of Palmolive dish soap with kind of a scrubber tool and some abrasion tool, and it was redesigned into some kind of a neat little hand tool where you could wash dishes without utilizing two different elements from two different companies. They were all fused together into one very useful tool.
Yeah, fusion's a
fascinating thing, and very applicable to product development, but also organizational development. You can pull groups of people together and do some interesting things. But at any rate, fusion is a key element there, and so getting up to the point where you can really start to think kind of creatively about what could we pull together that would create new value, be kind of unique, and attract an audience. That would be a great topic for 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And then of course, passion, right? Which is such an interesting subject, really, because when you sit around with a bunch of CEOs or business owners, and they're talking about business and their multiples and the ratios and the metrics and the money and so on, and you feel almost awkward injecting emotion into that discussion. Yeah.
But I think passion has to drive whatever you're doing if you want to be successful. That's how I'm wired anyway.
Passion is the fuel.
Right.
You get the goals, but you're sitting in a car with no gasoline until you have passion.
Right.
And that makes you go forward. But it's very interesting that certain groups of people will quickly say, oh yeah, that's so important. But there are a whole group of business people that would say, I wouldn't have even thought about injecting that into a strategic planning session. So I think those three, now what's interesting about those three words, right, before we go any further? Passion, fusion, what comes up in your mind? All three words end with ION.
I was going to say that, but I thought that was, too obvious, but it's true. ION.
It's true. Now, ions are a very interesting thing. You can't see them.
Right.
But if you can look at them at a molecular level or atomic level or whatever, they're flying around right now, all around us, right? And do you know what they're doing? They're open-ended, they're incomplete, and they're looking to fuse with a positive ion.
Oh, okay.
All right. I think that's hugely significant. Everybody else is like, who cares, right? And I'm like, aren't we all looking for a complementary something or other to kind of give us a sense of closure or wholeness in our company?
Yeah. That's cool.
Isn't that an
to connect
interesting...
with someone and connect with another.
And feel whole that we've got it all now. We've got the total package and so on.
That's a great metaphor.
So we're going to talk about that presentation. But now here's the thing I want to ask for you, and I'm go through that, Let's assume we got 10, 20, 30 people sitting around,
Okay.
But here's the thing. I want to figure out a way to blend this presentation, so I don't want to linger on it too much, and blend it into an additional presentation.
Okay.
All right. And I think passion, by the way, is the bridge.
Okay.
All right. That's my thought, because I don't want it to sound like, oh, by the way, we talked about that, and let's talk about this. I don't want to do that.
So
I
you
want
have to have a segue.
There's got to be a natural segue.
Right.
So if you're feeling passionate about your business and you have a strong conviction about it and you're persistent and all that stuff, the next related presentation is one that I call Dare to be Epic. Dare to be Epic. Okay. Now, the word epic, it used to be, back in the old Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill days, there was a presentation out there floating around, Dare to be Great.
Huh, yeah.
Dare to be Great was a big deal.
That.
Yeah. And greatness, and aspire to greatness. And I actually received an award called the Dare to be Great Award when I was 18 or 19 from the Danforth Foundation in St. Louis.
Wow.
They'd have a trophy and so on and so on. They pulled me up at a 4-H event, a big conference, and I got this award. And it really hit me deep down. It probably was my ego, frankly, but I thought to myself, this is it. I mean, greatness is mine.
Right.
It's in my hands. Right. But here we are on a contemporary day, and great is kind of a hackneyed word, but epic. Dude, that is epic, right? Yeah. That's an epic pizza. I don't care. So here we have this word, EPIC, right? So it occurred to me that, and this will be an interactive presentation now. This is what we're going to do in the event.
Okay.
And people will be sitting around, and I'm going to hand this out to everybody, a sheet of paper, and I'm going to give them 3 words that begin with E.
Okay.
Give them 3 more words that begin with P.
Okay.
3 words that begin with I, obviously, and 3 other words that begin with C.
Okay.
So now they have 12 words in front of them, and I want them to pick 4 words. This is their own choice that they make. They choose, one of each of these letters.
Okay.
And these 4 words that they're going to choose become their, how should I say? I don't say their mantra exactly, but this is how they define themselves to themselves.
Okay.
Right? And somebody says,
sort of like guideposts within themselves.
Yeah. Self-imagery things.
Yeah.
So if you're a real estate salesperson, for instance, and by the way, in Omaha, Nebraska, there are 3,300 real estate salespeople.
Wow.
So a buyer or a seller of a home says, thanks for coming by. Tell us who you are. We don't really know much about you. You work for a real estate agency we've heard of. But thanks for coming. Tell us who you are. How can we really know you? Mm-hmm. See? And at that moment, that person, if they attend this event, should be able to say, well, my E word, my P word, my I word, and my C word, these are the things around which I've built my career. This is what I believe in, and this is what you can expect from me.
Kind of define you.
Going to define you.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there, I have to tell you, and I hope, I don't mean to sound hackneyed, but that really cannot define themselves.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't really think about that.
They don't think about that, I guess. But, if you're in the world of marketing or sales at all, or even you're looking for a job,
Yeah, right.
An HR person says, well, tell me about yourself. I say, well, there's 4 things that define me as a worker and a human being. They are this, and this. Now, if I were to ask you real quick, and we'll wrap up and go to our sponsor here real quick. Give me an E word, just off the top of your head, that would kind of describe you, in your opinion. We'll go along quickly here. I won't linger on them.
Yeah, I'd have to have that list to actually pick from, I suppose.
Yeah.
E word, extroverted.
Extrovert, I think that's a reasonable thing.
Okay.
P, think of a P word that you think could kind of
in some ways perfectionistic.
Perfectionistic. All right, I'm not surprised at all. I, right? What would be a word?
I'm also introverted.
Introverted. So we have extrovert and introvert in the same thing. I love it. This is very convoluted.
Really on the spot.
And then C. What would you be if we choose a C word?
Creative.
Creative, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That'd be the first word I would think of in terms of defining you. Yeah. Fantastic, though. Really.
That's
an interesting.
I'll be curious to see what the list is.
This will be an interesting exercise.
It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
I think people would enjoy that.
Do you think so?
And, well, there's value in it too.
And then we'll kind of wrap up and have a snack, and everybody can stand up and walk around and then tell each other what these words were.
Yeah.
And why. I mean, that's really the thing.
Why
the
they are
story
epic.
Behind it.
Yeah.
That kind of got that word or
And
letter inside of me.
That's a great icebreaker for any kind of a group too.
Maybe I should do maybe it should be the first thing.
That'd be great.
You think that'd be better, maybe?
Might be, yeah.
Yeah, and then have the other piece, the vision fusion.
Because we would kind of know
each other then.
Who we are, yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. All right, well, you're watching WowBiz Nebraska. I'm watching Bruce Arant. He's extremely insightful. And
that would be an I word.
That'd be an I word. Yeah. I can claim that. No. But thanks for watching us here on WowBiz Nebraska. And I'm Lynn Hinderaker, of course. I'm going to tell you who is bringing you this show today. And it's exciting. I'm trying to share this with you. I'm going to back up for 2 seconds now. I'm going to tell you, back in the late 80s and early 90s, some of you might recall, that was a time when I'm calling that period of time in our history and our business society and so on, the value revolution. The value revolution, we'll call it 1.0, and that was driven by Taco Bell, right? When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Taco Bell created a value menu and they were selling tacos for 49, 59, 69 cents each or whatever. People were blown away.
I remember that.
They couldn't believe that. And we had, people coming into the stores. They just couldn't believe that price. And it was very interesting thing that happened and kind of rippled throughout the entire fast food industry. And people say, hey, you can at least go to these places and really get an incredible value. Right. Now here we are, and I'm going to talk to you about the Value Revolution 2.0. All right. And do you know what it belongs to? It belongs to a printer, believe it or not. And the name of them, they're here in the Omaha, Nebraska area. They're actually in Millard, which is kind of a subdivision or a suburb of Omaha. And it's called ABC Printing. ABC Printing. It's right on the northerly edge as you go up 132nd and L Street there, just north of Millard. You drive into Millard, and on your right, one of the first businesses that are there is ABC Printing. It's been there a long time. I'm going to tell you something. I was shopping some printing around. Now, we all know that printing isn't what it used to be. I mean, that's common, and people go, oh, well, I'll just send an email, this and that. But I have to tell you, you can so easily dismiss an email or skim over a social media thing. It doesn't seem like any of them have any real substance. So when you're really looking to make an impact with somebody, I still believe that handing them a piece of paper is a more genuine and a more
it's more intimate.
It's more intimate. It's still more meaningful. Yeah. So I was calling around. I was going to do a flyer about this event I mentioned earlier, and so I'm calling around. Trying to get a price. Right. And I said, let's just start with 20 pieces of paper. Now, it's a very small order, but we'll start with that and see how the flyer works. Right. Then I found ABC Printing down in Millard. I called Dale Preister, who's the owner of the shop. And I said, Dale, what would you charge me for 20 sheets of paper, color laser, all that? Right. He said, well, let me make a quick calculation. He says, I said, that's 50% underneath the going rate for this color laser printer. Are you doing something? Are you dunning me somehow? No, not at all. 24-pound paper, da-da-da-da-da. 50% off. Wow. I'm getting carried away here. But I just have to say, in this day and age, to have somebody that comes in way, way, way under on that kind of thing, I'm calling that a revolution.
Yeah, that's super unusual.
That's wonderful. Yeah, really I said, God bless you. So there you go. Keep in mind now, ABC Printing in Millard, Nebraska, about 50% less than you're going to find anywhere else. High quality printing, looks great, good work, good, and he's been there a very long time. So please give Dale Preister at ABC Printing in Millard a phone call and do some business with this man, because he deserves to be rewarded and acknowledged for keeping his prices down.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Especially in this inflationary period when everything's going crazy.
Right.
Isn't that so?
Oh,
all right.
Absolutely.
All right, ABC. All right, Dale. We're back here with WowBiz Nebraska, and I'm so happy to be here with my good friend Bruce Arant. Bruce, we're an economic development show to some extent. We talk a lot about the evolution of the workforce and businesses that are moving in or out of the state and so on. Right. It's a very interesting topic and a little complex. Yeah. But one of the things that I find the most interesting, there's a new book that came out that kind of opened up my mind, because I was getting a little down, a little depressed. A lot of the mayors and chamber people and so on around the state of Nebraska tend to be a little, they don't expect much of themselves. They're doing some incremental work. There's nothing wrong with that. They're taking care of, downtown. They're doing some projects. It's not that they're inactive completely. Right. I'm not saying that, but they're not necessarily believers in a big future, a big bold future.
No big vision.
No big vision. They want to be down to earth and so on. But I got to tell you, this book came out. It was authored by Steve Case, who's the founder of AOL, America Online.
Oh, wow.
Was that like 12, 15 years ago they were huge?
Yeah.
Very interesting man, and wrote this incredible thing. And of course, he wrote a book called The Rise of the Rest. And when he says the rest, who do you think he's talking about?
I'm guessing flyover country?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. His point is that innovation, tech innovation in particular, takes place in New York, Boston, which has a tremendous academic background, and San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Those are the three places where things happen, and in the Midwest, nothing big. See,
that's the impression people
That's
have,
the impression. That's the perception. Yeah. But he devotes his entire book, and he actually had a bus, a big giant bus, that says "Rise of the Rest" on the side of the bus.
Very cool.
And he goes all from Minnesota down to Chattanooga, down to Texas, et cetera. It's all over. A lot of medium-sized cities. And comes to Omaha, by the way. Yeah, and in every one of those cities, he sets up and he talks to entrepreneurs. He talks to inventors and investors and creates excitement and champions innovation.
Wow.
That's the concept, you know. And he came to Omaha. He found somebody in Lincoln, a lady who came out of the insurance industry. They found a problem, and I'll just keep this real short. They found a problem. Their mother or mother-in-law or whatever was in a retirement home.
Okay.
Yeah. And every time she or her father would call to see how mom's doing, there was a shift. I mean, the nurses were different. There was a person who picked up the phone was a different person. And they didn't know exactly how mom was doing because they were always talking to different people.
It'd be real frustrating.
It was very frustrating. Yeah. They couldn't get a bead on if she was okay. And then they would change her diet without talking to them sometimes, and a lot of variables.
Right.
But then every quarter or half quarter, whatever it was, when they sat down with the bill, there were all these things that the retirement home administrators had changed or moved around and so on, and it all added up to more money. They had to pay them more money than they paid them last quarter.
Gee.
All right.
Okay.
So they said this is just isn't right, you know.
Yeah. And
so she and this lady and her father went and found some software developers. They said, we don't know anything about software development, but we're going to create a system, some kind of an online thing, a system where there's continuity. And all of this stuff is accountable.
Consistency.
There's consistency, and it's easy for you to find out how mom's doing right now as opposed to even 20 minutes ago. All right, so
And they developed
They
this?
developed this,
Wow.
right? And Steve Case, with his group, gave them a bunch of money to grow the business, and because he saw tremendous potential. And it grew and grew and grew, and they've done very, very well. And he has studies like this for all these communities in the Midwest.
Is that what this book is about?
That's what this book is about. It's called The Rise of the Rest. And what his point is obviously we can innovate, and indeed we are capable of innovating here in the Midwest, and in some cases we're doing it. But even if we're not, he's like, let's get in there and do it. And
that sounds like a great
It's a great book, and it's a great read. And here's what I'm thinking. All right, I want your advice on this.
Okay.
You know, I've read about these executive reading sessions where you get people are interested in the topic,
right?
And they agree to meet someplace, you know, and maybe for an hour or whatever, and you read like one chapter a week.
Okay.
You know, and then you discuss it, of course, and how it relates to your business or your industry or whatever. You know,
that's a great launching pad.
Yes.
You know? It really is.
I think this particular book would be a pretty good catalyst for that. You could attract, I don't know, chamber people, economic developers, and I don't know, people who are interested in the community.
But that would make for some great conversation.
Make some great conversation. Yeah. And out of it could come possibly some great strategies or projects for innovation in Nebraska, Omaha, and all over the state. So those are my thoughts about Rise of the Rest. You know, I want to ask you this. Do you ever like to read things and then immediately you just have this gut reaction, go do something about it or put it into place?
Because you're inspired?
Because you're inspired by what you're reading.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
Yeah, it has.
I think creative people are inclined to do that. Yeah. And so anyway, that's the direction we're going over here. And I think Omaha, Nebraska is ready. I think we're ready for innovation. We don't quite know where to go or what to do or what the first steps are, but we've heard now for several years this is why young people leave the state, is because we're too reluctant, we're just a little too traditional or conventional. We don't know where to begin, frankly. And we're already a little bit profitable, so let's just let it roll. But one of the things Eric Ries wrote in his book, The Startup Thing, the Lean Startup, is he says, you can do a minimum viable prototype. You don't have to spend a ton of money.
Right.
You can get it out there in a very raw form, get gut reaction to an idea or a company or a value proposition, whatever it is.
And then tweak it.
And then tweak it from there, or put it aside you know, and move on to another thing.
I think one of the biggest problems is people feel paralyzed. They don't know what to do, so they don't do anything.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it might be wise just to go ahead and try something.
Try
and then,
something.
like you say, then you can tweak it later.
See, they're embarrassed. They're afraid that if we fail, then I'm the boss and I will be embarrassed and they won't trust the boss anymore and so on. I've got to win. I've got to have a great idea, otherwise I don't want to do it. This is it's fear of failure in front of your group.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Problem.
Well, Bruce, Arant, thank you so much as always. It's been a great conversation with you. Thanks for jumping in. And by the way, hope we can see you on December 17th.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of
Absolutely.
interesting people there. It'll be an eclectic dialogue, and we'll have a great time on top of that. So we'll have a new message for our viewers next time right here in WowBiz, Nebraska. We never stop coming up with cool new ideas that are worth discussing and reflecting on after the show is over. I'll see you next time. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Take care. Bye-bye.